I hate when people say that life has no meaning, so you can just create your own. Over the summer, I've read a lot of psych papers about meaning in life. So today, we're going to talk about questions that have been asked for pretty much as long as questions have been asked. What is meaning in life? How do we construct meaning? And what does it mean to feel meaning? And we're going to do so by exploring the game of basketball. And like any game of basketball, this video is going to come to you in 4 parts. And you may be asking, why basketball? Well, because
all is life.
mental health in America has been a giant talking point over the last couple years, and it seems like the general consensus is that things are pretty bad and they're getting worse. But on paper, things have never been better. We have electric skateboards and Chipotle now. What is happening? And to be clear, there isn't one singular answer as to what is going wrong with society. And there's a whole bunch of things contributing to the current mental health crisis. And with all of that being said, I'm going to offer my personal opinion because I feel like that's what the world needs right now. And at least for the mental health crisis, I think we need to stop looking at external solutions for this problem. Socioeconomic inequality, poverty, and social injustices are causing very real suffering. However, it's largely undeniable that we're in a better position now than we were 100 years ago. It seems like it's a problem that affects people regardless of how much money or wealth they have. So I think the real problem is that none of us really know what we're doing. We're all just lost because we're more free than we've ever been, and that's causing a huge problem. A lot of past societal structures that have given people guidelines and ways of living have gone by the wayside. Religion is a shell of what it used to be, gender roles have largely broken down, and the tight-knit communities and families of the past have been destroyed in our hyper-individualistic culture. The entire weight of figuring out our lives rests on our shoulders. And that's terrifying for the reason that humans do not actually want that much freedom. Freedom and an infinite amount of choices terrifies us. And there's a lot of scientific studies to back this up. And before anyone misinterprets what I just said, I'm not saying that feminism is bad or that we all need to be Christian. I think it's great that we've broken down a lot of these suffocating structures. But we have to realize that these structures were serving some purpose. And now that they're gone, I think people are trying to fill this vacuum with whatever they can. And I think without any other direction, people just end up chasing money or fame or whatever society tells them will make them happy. Or worse, people start listening to toxic but charismatic leaders that will tell them the truth about the world. I think this vacuum needs to be addressed. The solution to all of this freedom is not in happiness or love. Meaning is the antidote to the dizzying sense of freedom that we feel in the world. Okay, so I read a lot of psychology papers this summer about meaning in life feelings, and it's definitely a relatively new field, but it's a really interesting one. Right now, the current theory breaks down meaning in life into 3 different components: comprehension, purpose, and significance. Now, when we talk about meaning in life feelings, it's important to understand what exactly these psych papers are studying. They're studying our subjective feelings of meaning. This research isn't pointing at some objective meaning in life or trying to prove that there is one. It's just trying to understand what we mean when we say that our lives feel meaningful, and what are the different components that lead us to judge our lives as meaningful. Because regardless of what we feel about objective meaning or about the universe, it seems that our lives feel quite meaningful. And feeling like your life is meaningful is linked with a lot of positive outcomes. The papers I read broadly agreed that there are 3 different components of meaning and life feelings. Comprehension is defined as, quote, the degree to which individuals perceive a sense of coherence and understanding regarding their lives. This basically means that the world seems like it makes sense to you and everything seems to fit together. The second component is purpose, which is defined as, quote, the extent to which life feels directed and motivated by valued life goals. So purpose is mainly about having goals and kind of a sense of direction in where you want your life to go and where it's currently headed. Lastly is significance, quote, the degree to which individuals feel that their existence is significant or important and valued in the world. And this is basically just the feeling like it matters. So generally, the idea is that when people say that their lives feel meaningful, what they're really saying is that they feel a sense of comprehension, purpose, and significance. You could see how a feeling described as those 3 things serves as the perfect counterbalance to unlimited freedom. The definition may seem broad and vague, but of course it is. People live vastly different lives under completely different circumstances and still find their lives meaningful. So now let's talk about the three facets of meaning through the lens of basketball, because I think it'll help clarify what exactly comprehension, purpose, and significance are. If you think about it, basketball or any other game or sport are realistically just an arbitrary set of rules. But these games and sports have somehow become some of the most meaningful and important parts of people's lives, because basketball, like any other sport, is a microcosm for meaning. So if we look at basketball, comprehension is just about understanding the world, recognizing patterns, and feeling like the world makes sense. This is pretty obvious in basketball because basketball has objective rules, and everyone who plays basketball knows them. The rules are pretty clear. You have a ball that needs to go into each hoop. If you're going to move, you have to dribble the ball. Any shot past the three-point line is worth, surprise, 3 points. So no matter what game of basketball you're watching, whether it be high school, collegiate, or the NBA, you can watch it and the game makes sense. You know what's happening. The purpose of the game is also baked into basketball. The purpose is to win the game. And there are two really important points for purpose. The first is that it's hierarchical. The primary or highest level goal is to win a basketball game. But from that goal spawns a bunch of other different sub-goals. For example, if you wanted to win more basketball games, then you would have to improve your fundamentals, learn how to shoot better, get better dribbling skills, work on your footwork. Your higher order goals give you sub-goals, and those sub-goals give you direction on how to improve, or the general direction in which you want to move in your life. The second part of purpose is how you play. Everyone plays differently. Whether you're a guard or a forward, you play differently. You focus on different skills, you improve in different ways, and you do different things inside of the game. And they're both equally important, valid, and legitimate ways of playing. This can be akin to choosing your values or how you want to live your life. Everyone is going to live differently. Every player has their own unique style, just like every person has their own unique values. But your values and goals will give your life a more specific direction. Lastly is significance. Winning and losing in basketball just feels like it matters because we keep score, and we've kind of all just agreed that winning matters. And that makes sense because we want the games that we play to feel like they matter. Like, it wouldn't matter if basketball players knew the rules of the game and how to improve if none of them ever cared about winning. Like, imagine watching a game of basketball where two teams are just going back and forth scoring points without any real stakes. The All-Star game.
Great players, but that is the worst basketball game ever played.
Anyways, it's why championship finals feel so much more fun and exciting to watch. The storyline, the trophy, the legacies of players on both teams. These are things that will all be greatly impacted by this one game. And this is often a self-perpetuating cycle. Like, if you're a professional basketball player and you play a bunch of games and you're in a stadium surrounded by thousands of fans that are cheering for you or booing for you if you win or lose, that's going to feel like a really significant event. And if you're one of those fans in a stadium of thousands and thousands of people, you're going to feel like the thing that you're cheering for is really, really important. Disclaimer, this is starting to get away from empirical psychology research and starting to be my own bro science opinion about the topic. So you might be wondering, what does this mean for my life? If you look at what comprehension, purpose, and significance are actually doing, they're imposing structure and rules into our lives. Comprehension gives us the broad structure of the game, the objective rules and understanding of what is happening. Purpose is how we're going to play the game and what goals we have. Significance is the glue that holds the game together, why we're playing the game in the first place. And life is just a collection of a bunch of different games. Pretty much every facet of your life can be broken down into a game. Think about whatever it is that you like to do or whatever goals you have, and this structure applies to it, whether it's being a musician, a fitness influencer, or even a father. And that is how you can actually choose to make meaning from anything. And there's one extremely important mechanism that allows all of this to function, which is commitment. Once you impose rules on yourself, you have to follow them, or else the game loses its meaning. For example, imagine if you're playing basketball with someone and they just start running around without dribbling, and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Stop, that's against the rules. And they're just like, oh, I don't care about playing by the rules. The game has completely altered. It's lost its meaning. This isn't to say that you have to be perfect and never have a day off or anything, but just that consistency is really important. Playing a game takes discipline and commitment and not just doing whatever feels best in the moment. And all of this comes back to why I hate the phrase, if nothing matters, you can choose the meaning of your life. Because when people say that, one, it's a lot easier said than done. It says nothing about the work, intentionality, and discipline that I think is pivotal in order to create meaning. Living a meaningful life doesn't just mean you get to do whatever you want to do. Two, no one actually tells you how to create meaning. or the mechanisms behind it. Like, meaning just doesn't come out of nowhere. It's like taking someone who's never played basketball and saying every basketball player has their own unique style, so go and figure it out. But that advice isn't helpful unless they already understand the fundamentals and rules of the game. So if your life feels meaningless and you feel lost, I urge you to take a step back and look at the games you're currently playing. Are they the games that you need or want to be playing? Ask yourself what you need to do and what you want to do, and construct games around them. First, figure out the rules of the game. Understand how it works. Second, figure out what your goals are. How do you want to play the game? What matters most to you in terms of playing the game? And then third, ask yourself, why are you playing this game? Make sure you have a reason as to why this game matters so much to you or the people around you. But once you choose what type of games you're going to play, you have to commit. If you can manage all of that, you can play some pretty meaningful games. For this last section, I just wanted to give 3 quick pieces of advice on how I think you should play your game. Because honestly, telling people to just impose order and structure on their lives is a lot easier said than done, and it honestly doesn't feel that different than just telling someone to create their own meaning. So the first tip is to not make happiness the game. Happiness is not something that is pursued, it's something that you feel while you're pursuing. The harder you focus on being happy, the more it's going to elude you. And there's research that indicates this too. And it makes sense to me. Emotions are a very fickle thing, and most of the time, you can't control whether or not you're happy. There are going to be days where it's hard and you're not happy. That's normal and natural. But even when you're not happy, you need to keep playing the games that you're playing, because if you don't, you're not going to make progress and the games will start to break down. If you let your current emotional state dictate your actions, you're going to be all over the place. The second piece of advice is to choose a noble aim. Life is really hard. You're going to go through heartbreak, grief, anxiety, and if the things that you're doing right now only matter because they serve you or because they make you feel better or because they make your life better, it's going to be really hard in those moments when you feel really bad or really down to convince yourself that you need to do something. But if you know that the thing that you're doing doesn't just matter to you, that it's helping someone else, it makes it more likely that you're going to act even when you really, really don't want to. And even if you're in a bad spot and you can't do anything right now to make yourself happy, I think there's a lot of peace and pride to be found in taking action that you think is right. And my last and biggest piece of advice on how to play the game is to not make winning the point of the game. And I know this is so different than everything we've ever been taught, but as soon as you win a game, you're just going to have to choose another game. The happiness that you get from winning isn't going to last forever. Think of all the finance bros or people who work at soul-sucking jobs for money. There's this implicit belief in the heads of all these people playing the finance game that making a lot of money will make them happy. And once they win that game and they become super, super rich, they have midlife crises. Winning the game won't ever make them happy because they weren't happy playing the game. Even if you choose a noble aim, often you won't win the game. For example, say you really want to stop climate change. Well, the odds that you're going to stop climate change in the course of your lifetime or to even make some giant significant change is pretty low. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do what you can and try as hard as you can to fight climate change. And it definitely doesn't mean that you should suffer needlessly until climate change is solved. And I heard something from a podcast once, and I think it was Colin and Samir, but it was something along the lines of,
look at what you're doing as a creator, because if you don't enjoy it, success is only the opportunity to do more of it.
A successful investment banker just gets to do more investment banking. A good professional NBA player stays in the NBA for longer and gets to play more basketball. Right now, I'm only 21, and a lot of the games I've decided to play in my life are still in their early stages. But it'll be really interesting to see how these games play out in the future. And I might not ever be the next John Green or Freud, but whether it be in my psych career or writing or the gym or whatever games I choose to play, who cares if I win? I'm having so much fun just playing.